create a node 3D and name it what you want it to be under the root node of the level. Then drag in your model or right click and instantiate it. Drag that as a child of the node that you made. Then make sure that the scale of the model and the node are both one. Okay. Obviously, and then you got to change the position of the model is off, so because of where I dragged it in compared to the node. So we need to set the position of the model to be 0 all around. And then you can move it using the node. Do not move it using the model, the parent node. So you want everything encapsulated in a parent node 3D. So now you can add a path 3D to the waxed ledge parent node. OBS didn't capture that, but basically I'm just clicking the little plus under the scene and selecting path 3D. That's going to be what the grind rails is. Yeah. Now you go into the inspector, go to node, and go to groups, and click rails. Yours might be under. You gotta click groups. Yours might be under signal. You gotta click groups and click rails. Then you want to view it. I like viewing it from above. You can hit 7 on the numpad, which didn't work on the Steam Deck where I'm testing and showing you. So I just manually will rotate the camera. And then when adding a path, the stuff up in the at the top will change and add those little like point things when you have the path selected. So you click the green add a point, and it'll allow you to click anywhere. Click add a first point and a second point, and then switch to move point so that you don't get messed up. Click the point of the path and move it to the waxed angle that you want to grind on. And you kind of want to line it up perfectly with the angle, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So the dude will grind on it however it is, except if it's inside of the ledge, then he'll collide with the ledge first. But yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway. Okay, so now I am duplicating that path to move it to the other side of the ledge, which is probably not the proper practice. So I'm instead going to delete that and create a new path because it adds a transform to that path, which I just don't know if you want. You probably don't. So yeah, I just created a new path. I'm going to just do the same thing. And you might be thinking this is very tedious, but once you set a obstacle up to be grindable, then you don't have to do this every time. You can just reuse this. So yeah, then when the grind paths are set up on the obstacle, you're good to go. But it occurred to me that what you might want to do is turn that whole ledge into a scene so that it doesn't get messed up with all the children inside of that ledge. If you accidentally click them and move them, it doesn't get messed up. So you can't see me do it because OBS didn't record it, but if you right click the parent node ledge, node 3D, and save branch as scene, it creates a scene of that and it collapses it in the world there. But then if you go into the file system you can go into scene wherever you saved it, and and then the ledge is isolated in its own scene. This might actually be the proper way to make obstacles because it's just less to deal with, less stuff in the background. You can be more precise or whatever. So then you can see I kind of like fine-tuned the coordinates of that path and save that scene now. And when you save that, you can go back into your world, and it'll update that, which seems to be the proper way to do it. Okay, so now we can add a gap to this ledge to where if the player enters one trigger of the gap and exits through the other trigger, you get like a gap bonus. That's how these work. So this is John's example, and you can see these trigger rectangle shapes. So that's the shape that the player, the trigger that the player goes through. So yeah, so what we do, there's a scene which is the gap trigger. So we go into scenes. This is all in the Cheapass repo. So then now you gap trigger scene, and now we can just drag that into the scene. I realize now that wasn't probably the proper way to do it. You want to right click and you like instantiate that. You can, because then the coordinates of the gap are now off, but we'll fix that. So then you have trigger and trigger shape. So the trigger contains the trigger shape. So you want to move the trigger. You don't want to move the shape. So yeah, go ahead and begin moving the triggers to the front and the end of the ledge, and make them big enough for the player to collide with. If he ollies over it, it's not going to trigger. So you got to make it like the size of the human or bigger. So now in the inspector, you can give your gap a name. You can see that yellow box is because the origin of the gap is off. We'll fix that in a minute. Yeah, give it a name, give it a type, which is a grind. So the player has to be like grinding the beginning of the ledge and the end to get the gap bonus. And then save the scene, go back to your world, and you'll see the gap there in the world. Now, when you resize your obstacle, you want to make sure the path does not scale or anything else. You only want to scale that parent node 3D so that everything inside of it stays at scale 1. This is important for grinds because if the scale changes, the speed of the grind will change. Also, you might be wondering, how did I open up that waxed ledge parent node once it's already a scene? The answer is I right-clicked it and I enabled editable children. That's how you can edit this scene within the world. And it didn't show that in OBS because it didn't record it. So that orange rectangle extending to the right of the ledge is the gap trigger that it was not, whose origin point was to the side of the ledge, which I never ended up fixing, but it works anyway, but it's not the proper procedure, and that's because I dragged the gap trigger into the scene instead of like instantiating it from the node of the ledge. Anyway, we're gonna now export this level and put it into Cheapskate and test it out. To do that, run the project, and what Cheapskate does is it packages the level. You can't see it because it didn't. I had it only set to record the window of Godot, not the other windows, but you'll get a little glimpse of it here. So since I didn't record this properly, I'm not gonna. I'll do another video on this, but this is how you export your project, and it creates 2 files when you do that. within the Cheapass repository. So, um, so go to the Cheapass repo and then go to levels, and you're gonna see your level has two files. Well, it's gonna have three, but you only need those two: the level pack, and the info pack. So the config file is what it uses to create the info pack and the level pack. You create the config file first, and then you create the other ones. Separate video. It'll be easy. Then you go into Steam, into where Cheapskate is stored on your computer, and navigate to levels within that. This is on the Steam Deck, and then you just simply drag those files in, and when you run the game in Steam, it will detect those levels. So you can see me here. I'm just going to replace my old level with my new version of it, and we will have that grindable ledge. So now that you copied your level into the folder, you can open up the game and run the game, play the game, and you'll see in the level selection your level. So you can click it and click go, and it will load your level. This is how you test your level. So let's see if that ledge works. Just getting my controller going here. Okay, and boom. Yes, sir. We got the. We did not get the gap trigger, but let's try that. Boom. Waxy gap. Yeah, we got it. So it worked. And yeah, that's it. That's what you do. That's how you add components to levels. And a new video will be on how to start the level from scratch, and the config file creation thing. This is my first software tutorial, so forgive me.